Did you know that the film The Exorcism of Emily Rose is based on the real case of a 16-year-old German girl? Just like another well-known horror classic, The Exorcist, 1973, it was made based on the work of William Peter Blatty, who was inspired by an article in the Washington Post about a 13-year-old boy who underwent exorcism sessions to rid himself of strange behaviors acquired after using a Ouija board to communicate with a deceased uncle. If you want to know more about this subject, I'll leave the video in the cards and in the description. The real name of the character Emily Rose was Anna Elizabeth Michel, also known as Anneliese. Anneliese died in 1976 at the age of 23. Learn a little more about the terrifying story of the young woman who inspired the film The Exorcism of Emily Rose, 2005. Real life. The young German Anneliese Michel was born on September 21, 1952, in Liebelfing, in the German federal state of Bavaria, but was raised with her three sisters in the small town of Klingenberg am Main. Her parents, Anna and Joseph Michel, were very religious, and she was raised deeply Catholic, and she used to attend Mass with her parents and sisters at least twice a week. Family history. Before Anneliese, her mother had given birth to an illegitimate daughter, who died at the age of 8, during surgery to remove a tumor. Anna Michel, Anneliese's mother, was forced to marry wearing a black veil because of the great shame she caused her family. Sensitive, Anneliese grew up believing that she had to do penance to make up for her mother's sins. She became so obsessed with ridding herself of evil that she slept naked on rocks to atone for the sins of the drug addicts who frequented the station near her home. First diagnosis. The young woman, who had been healthy until then, began to suffer from epileptic seizures, and after being seen by several doctors and a neurologist, was diagnosed with a type of epilepsy called Big Evil. Depression. Anneliese began to feel demonic presences during her prayers. Presenting with a deep depression, she was hospitalized for a year, which kept her away from church. During this period, she began to hear voices which called her cursed and branded her as condemned, saying that she would rot in hell. The young woman then began to consider suicide. Psychological treatment. After being admitted to a psychiatric hospital, Anneliese's health did not improve. In addition, her depression began to deepen. She began to become increasingly frustrated with the medical intervention, which did not improve her condition. Long-term medical treatment was unsuccessful, and her condition, including her depression, worsened over time. Having centered her entire life around her Catholic faith, Anneliese began to attribute her psychiatric condition to demonic possession. Anneliese became intolerant of sacred places and objects, such as crucifixes, which contributed to those who believed she was demonic possession. In June 1970, Anneliese suffered a third seizure in the psychiatric hospital, at which time she was prescribed anticonvulsants for the first time. The name of this drug is not known, and it did not bring immediate relief to Anneliese's symptoms. She continued to talk about what she called faces of the devil that she saw at various times of the day. Anneliese became convinced that conventional medicine was of no help, increasingly believing that her illness was some kind of spiritual disorder. She turned to the church for an exorcism. That same month, she was prescribed another drug, paracizine, which is a phenothiazine with general properties similar to those of chlorpromazine. It is used in the treatment of various psychoses, including schizophrenia and behavioral disorders. In November 1973, Anneliese began treatment with Tegretol, carbamazepine, which is an anti-epileptic drug. Anneliese took the drug frequently, until shortly before her death. Anneliese experienced severe psychiatric disorders from the age of 16 until her death at the age of 23, with her clinical picture ranging from secondary malnutrition to mental illness. After several years of ineffective psychiatric treatment, She refused medical treatment and requested an exorcism. Discovery. During a religious pilgrimage to San Damiano with a good friend of the family, Thea Hein, who regularly organized pilgrimages to holy places, noticed that Anneliese avoided being near religious images or drinking from a water source considered sacred, and that she smelled like hell itself. Her companion concluded that she was suffering from demonic possession. Request to the church. Both Anneliese and her family began to have a firm conviction that she was possessed by evil forces. Seeking help, they turned to several priests, requesting an exorcism. However, all the priests they consulted were reluctant. They recommended that she continue medical treatment, explaining that an exorcism required the consent of a bishop. The family's determination led them to a nearby town, where they met the priest Ernst Alt. After observing Anneliese, he expressed doubts about the diagnosis of epilepsy, stating that she did not display typical characteristics of the condition. With a convinced look on his face, he declared that he saw signs of demonic possession. Convinced of his assessment, Alt asked the bishop for permission to perform the exorcism. In September 1975, Bishop Josef Stangl finally granted Father Renz permission to perform Anneliese's exorcism, following the guidelines of the 1614 Rituale Romanum. However, he imposed strict secrecy on the entire process. The first exorcism session took place on September 24, marking the beginning of a series of rituals that would seek to free Anneliese from the supposed dark forces that tormented her. Exorcism. Anneliese's condition worsened considerably. She used to kneel 600 times a day, and on one of those occasions, she ended up tearing the ligaments in her knee, which forced her to crawl under a table, where she remained barking like a dog for 2 days. In addition, she screamed for hours and began eating spiders and coal, even biting the head off a dead bird and licking her own urine from the floor. It was then, in 1975, that the third request for exorcism was accepted by the Bishop of Wurzburg, and the case was taken on by Father Arnold Renz and Pastor Ernst Alt, who performed the exorcisms in accordance with the Roman ritual of 1614. Weekly sessions. Arnold Renz and Ernst Alt began to hold 2 weekly sessions of 4 hours each. In total, 67 rituals were performed over a period of just over 9 months. She was locked in a room, where she remained without eating, drinking, or sleeping, sometimes chained. Without any results, the girl stopped eating and declared in one session that she wanted to die to atone for the rebellious youth of the time and the apostate priests of the modern church. Recordings. In total, 42 hours of exorcism were recorded by Father Arnold Renz and Pastor Ernst Alt. Those who dare to listen will come across growls, screams, curses, and dialogues between the supposed demons. Death. Anneliese died on July 1, 1976, at the age of 23, weighing less than 30 kilos. She fasted in the belief that this would weaken the evil spirits, but she contracted pneumonia and did not survive. The autopsy revealed that the young woman died from malnutrition and dehydration. Shortly before she died, she declared, "Mom, I'm scared." Consequences after death. The young woman's parents, Anna and Joseph, as well as the exorcist priests, were accused in a criminal case by local prosecutors of negligence and homicide. Although they received different sentences, they were all found guilty of allowing the girl to starve to death. During the trial, videos of the exorcism and images of the teenager's condition were shown. The church was ordered to pay a fine, and the parents were acquitted because, according to German law, they had suffered enough. The case led Germany to debate religious freedom and parental rights. In 1984, German bishops asked the church to review the exorcism ritual because of what happened to Anneliese. In 1999, The Vatican published the first update to the ritual since the 17th century, introducing a medical qualification for exorcism to be considered. Mother's testimony. In an interview with The Telegraph in 2005, Anneliese Michel assured that she missed her daughter very much, but did not regret the decisions she had made. "I know I did the right thing, because I saw the sign of Christ in her hands. She was having wounds, and that was a sign from God to exorcise her demons. She died to save other lost souls, to atone for her sins." Anneliese was a kind, loving, sweet, and obedient girl, but when she was possessed, it was not something natural, something you can explain. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you in the next video, so we can explore and unravel the mysteries of the supernatural.